say good evening to you, but when I look out at the crowd that we have here this evening, it's truly not a good evening, it's a great evening. It's a great day to be a green light. If I could get Bart Garfola and Tom Abraham to come forward, please. Present the plaque. It's with great honor and pride and gratitude that we declare Linda Dickerson, the 2022 GSEF Distinguished Alum, to join previous awardees and select group of whose talent and service make GS a proud place. Thank you. 2022 GSEF Distinguished Honoree Posthumous Linda Dickerson. This time, if we can call Jerome Dominic forward, Barb and Tom. It's with great gratitude and incredible awe of a person who gave of himself, like your father, our Dr. Spino, Greensburg's Dr. Spino, that we present you with this plaque in honor of his posthumous induction to GSEF. Anyone that knew Dr. Spino knows his profound impact on our community. He healed hearts, minds, and bodies. We thank you for your dad, for lending your dad to the Greensburg community. Thank you.
The third son of a beloved man that we all know. There is a challenge to find things to say. And I've been a doting son to that man, and I think probably the best way to respect and honor him is just to use his own words. So he'd be standing up here, and he would likely tell his most famous story of being ready to graduate from Greensburg Salem and taking a career assessment and practicing for that career assessment, very similar to what I do for people in my field. You know, you go a little bit deeper to understand that at that point, he's already had last rites twice. He's missed a year of school. He's had tuberculosis, lived at age 4 in Crescent, seeking the only cure you had that time for tuberculosis, which was air. You come home and there's a world war, you get through that, you even have to figure out in your little kid head, maybe I shouldn't go by Pascal, I should go by Pat at that time. And you get to that point and you're ready to graduate, and you study, and you know what you want to do, and you've made a promise to this Lord, and you believe that you're only alive in this world because of that promise, and you get your assessment back the very next day, and it says, Pat Spino, you're meant to be a priest. And, you know, I've thought of that, and I've heard that story so many times, and, you know, as much of me just truly adoring that man, he is somewhat of an enigma to me, and I always thought he was all our dads, you know, and he was my dad, but he loved you just the same, you know, so, you know, I thought of it, and I think, you know, he was holy. Maybe the most holy man I know, but whole in the sense of whole. Someone who has reconciled his ends to find peace in the man that he became and served you through that man. As Dave says, he was a simple guy. He was one of you. And I'm him. You know, it sounds a little bit weird, but to me, I was Jerome Spino with a G for Jerome and an S, and that was GS, and I was a line of the family, and I was A-okay with that, okay? And that puts you here. So I didn't graduate from your school, but I got a lot of pride for it. And I want to finish to tell you 2 more things. One is about my dad's pride. You know, he had died. I understand that he carried me in life, and I carry him in death. And I was in his office thinking most likely I'll never be able to get back inside of this place. And I go up inside of the attic, and there's a Greensburg Salem pamphlet from when he was in a play for you guys when he graduated. That would have been for a guy from over 70 years ago. He'd been around this world serving people in a war, everything that you all know. And he had a pristine pamphlet from when he went to Greensburg Salem and how much that experience meant to him that he would have kept it for 70 years. And I'm like, whoa, Jerome, because when it gets heavy, I don't go by Dominic, I go by Jerome, and I like, you need to set that down. And darn it, my fingerprint put one of those nice attic coal ash thumbprints on it. Maybe it's a metaphor, maybe it's a good one. So I was nervous. You know, I volunteered for the county not that long ago, and I ran into 2 staff from Greensburg Salem. And I'm home with you guys. You know, you're my bread and butter, you're my peeps. You know, I coach your kids, you know, and it just killed me. You know, you coach a Greensburg Salem kid, they put their hand in and it's 1, 2, 3 family. Every time. Every time. I love those kids. So you guys coach great kids and you make them even better. But I was scared because I met 2 staff and they didn't know my dad. I was in shock. And that happened, man. I mean, I wouldn't have asked for that. So I appreciate you guys remembering him. It's important to all of us because I do believe that, you know, a kid can learn. We all can be that guy. Pretty simple, hard work and attitude. And I also reached out to the county commissioners, of which there are 2 here today, Commissioner Chu and Commissioner Curtis and their lovely families. They were kind enough to set April 24th as Dr. Spino Day in Westmoreland County. And, you know, I'm sitting here too with Mrs. Flesha, and, you know, I miss my dad, I really do. And she said to me, again, when it's heavy, it's Jerome. And she said, well, Jerome, no one wants to hear a sad story, but everybody will come to a party. So I'm going to need your help, but get ready for that. April 24th, I'm going to be putting that proclamation out, take a picture of it, and send it to everybody you know. Thank you very much.
A third honoree from the class of 1955, and I knew him as Mr. Felton. I saw him walk the streets every day, all day, with his sweats on the middle of the summer. And he was everywhere that I was. I thought maybe there were more than one of him because when you went to the rink, he was there. When you went to the pool, he was there. Wherever you were, he seemed to be there. Here tonight with us is Colleen Rosenstill. Colleen was one of those seeds that he planted and watered. Colleen participated for the United States in the 1992, the 1996, and the 2000 Olympics. Colleen, would you stand, please? So, JC and Darnell was a wideout. These guys are great athletes as well. And of course, Renee was a part of that track program. Terry Albright went to the University of Richmond for track and cross country out of that program. Renee went on to Santa Monica Junior College in California. She graduated UCLA with a degree in sociology. So if I can ask Tina to come forward. Mr. Abraham, Mrs. Garfola. Tina and JC, it's with great appreciation and gratitude that we present this 2022 Distinguished Alumni Award posthumously as a token of appreciation for his dedication and your dedication to and impact on the Greensburg community. We thank you.
Well, my father was unable to attend this evening. He was just released from the hospital today. So I have to read his speech. So I'm going to read the speech that we had prepared for him, and hopefully I'll do it justice. And it says, I'm honored today to have been selected to receive the Distinguished Alumni Award. I am grateful to have my public service and contributions recognized in this way. It means so much to me that the activities that I'm so passionate about resonate with others. First, I would like to thank God for my many blessings and for always directing my life. And I'm thankful for everyone that nominated me to be included for this occasion. I couldn't have done it alone. So I want to give a special thank you to my family and friends for their support throughout all the years. As you already know, I dedicated myself to public service. As the founder of my beloved track club, coaching midget football, and training numerous student athletes, or just directing traffic in downtown Greensburg on a Friday night. But I have a confession to make. I've always been a kid at heart, and I enjoyed all of the activities just like one of the kids, so I guess that keeps me young. This event has reminded me of my many dreams and plans and the desire to make a difference. But I've learned that no matter how your dreams unfold, you can always reach out and help others to fulfill their mission for a greater reward. So in closing, this day will be stored in my personal history as a day to remember. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you, JC. And your dad has brought much pride back to the Greensburg community, not only for himself, but for all of us in the next generations. Our final honoree, our distinguished alumni honoree this evening, has the distinguished honor of growing up with one of our foundation board members, Tom Abraham. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Tom to do the honors for his longtime friend. Tom?
To make this presentation or introduce to you to Dan Pulse. He is a product of, I don't know if it's this loud enough, he's a product of Southwest Greensburg, as was Judge Driscoll, who got this award. And Dan was in the class of 61, as Anita Leonard and him. So we have 2 members from Southwest and also 2 members from class of 61. So we're on a roll. Dan graduated from Greensburg in 61, and he started in basketball and in golf, and some would say, some even here, would say he's the best golfer that Greensburg ever had. Now, friends of John Driscoll would say that he, the judge, was the best golfer Greensburg ever had, but it's debatable. So what can I say? I've seen Dan hit a golf ball, it goes straight and very far, and I couldn't walk that far. Dan went to Lehigh and graduated with an engineering degree, got out and worked for a couple of years, and then he decided to become a Marine. And Vietnam was going on at that time, and in 1967 he served his first of 2 tours in Vietnam. And at one time he was engaged in a battle, a very famous Marine battle called Getlin's Corner. And we have in our audience tonight a friend of mine, Brigadier General Claire Gill. Claire, you know what happens when a young lieutenant gets caught in a big ambush and firefight and he's fallen into the crap, you know. They usually don't come out. Dan came out, he's one of very few that survived Getlin's Corner. And he rallied the troops. He was the only officer plus 1 forward observer for the artillery. They rounded the troops up and got them back to safety. And God Dan is still here today to pester me and bother me all the time, because he always did that. I've only been in 2 fights in my life, both times with him. One at 7 at the YMCA and one at Lehigh at his frat house. But anyhow, it's okay, Dan. Dan spent a couple of years working with troubled youth, and then in, well, I guess I'm going to have to cheat. In 2000 and something, he started working with General Jones at Outdoor Odyssey. General Jones started a thing called Semper Fi Odyssey, and the concentration was to help wounded warriors. And this is primarily the work that got Dan nominated for Distinguished Alumni. He's got over 12 or 13 years, over 12,000 hours of volunteer hours working with wounded warriors. And the wounded warriors that I'm talking about are guys who are close to suicide. I heard one guy say he put the gun in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and nothing happened, and then he turned to God after that. But I've heard that story more than once where people have tried suicide. You also get guys who are greatly depressed. You get guys who are having family problems. They need adjustments with their wives, their children. And the program is that the wounded warriors, when they were mostly Marines at first, later years they took all the services, but the wounded warriors would be at Camp Lejeune or Camp on the West Coast, I forget. But they were on their way of processing out. But before they were processed out, they had to get some help with their mental status. They were in bad shape. They didn't. The military didn't want to turn them loose too soon. So they came to this camp for a week, sponsored by the Semper Fi Fund, and the counselors, which Dan was one. In fact, he was the number 2 man in the operation. They stayed with him 24/7, and I know, I've been part of that program, but never for more than a day or two here and there. And Dan dedicated his life to helping the wounded warriors get ready to go back into life. And he did a really good job. And these wounded warriors stayed in touch with people like him, and he continued to counsel them anytime he wanted. He gave them his cell phone number, everything. And so 12,000 hours, I don't know how many days that is, but it's quite a bit of time. So for his actions in Vietnam, I just want to read some of his medals. Somebody was tall, David, you're tall. He got the American Legion Award exemplifying honor, courage, scholarship, leadership, and service. The 2003 Islamic Temple of Pittsburgh's Humanitarian of the Year Award, and the 2020 Greensburg High School, oh, that's this award. And we were supposed to give it 2 years ago. While in the Marine Corps, he was awarded the National Defense Service, the Vietnamese Service, and Vietnamese Campaign Medals, as well as 2 Presidential Unit citations, the Combat Action Medal, the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Silver Star, that means bravery, the Bronze Star Medal for Meritorious Service, and the Bronze Star Medal with Combat V. Quite a career that Dan has had. He's had his own company, but he spent, I'd say, the majority of his life helping others, and mostly the wounded warriors. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you and to present the award to Dan Parks. I know him as Murph, Daniel Murphy Parks. Yeah, say a few words. You said what you were going to do.
Mom and I grew up, we went from kindergarten all the way through high school. And he went to West Point, graduated from West Point. There were 4 years he became a second lieutenant. I went to Lehigh University, left there, went into the Marine Corps, and in 90 days, I was also a second lieutenant. So
That's the problem.
yeah. It was a little slow. Some of you people that are way back there, you can't see that banner, but hopefully before you leave, you'll go up and take a look at that banner and the school that's next to the banner. And what that banner represents is all the Marines of India Company 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines. Now, any of you guys that have been in the service, you're going to say, Jesus, I think some Marines up there, they weren't all in one country. Well, in Vietnam, we went over by ourselves and came back by ourselves. Now, normally, you'd have a unit that would go over, and the unit would come back. But so, as I was a new second lieutenant going to Vietnam, most of the guys that I was going to lead had already been there. So they're looking at this young, red-headed, freckle-faced second lieutenant that's going to be our leader, and they have no idea whether I can do the job or not. So Vietnam was different, and that's why all those names are on that banner, because when we came back, we had reunions every 2 years, and at one of the reunions, I had learned about Lou Puller. Some of you may know Chesty Puller, the most decorated Marine ever. His son Lou lost both of his legs in Vietnam. When Lou came back, he still wanted to give to Vietnam, like we did. When Tom and I went over, we both wanted to give. We weren't over there trying to take over their country. We really wanted to give. Well, Lou Puller wanted to build an elementary school in every province in Vietnam. And so I, at one of our reunions, said to these groups of Marines that come to the reunions, I said, shouldn't we build a school? And there was a lull in the group that was there because they weren't sure whether they really wanted to do that or not. But my friend John Cricket raised his hand and he says, I'll donate the first $2,000. And it was like an avalanche. After that, everybody just kind of wanted to get to be a part of building the school in Vietnam. And the picture beside the banner is the school that we built. It took about 3 years. And we built the school, and my wife Holly was sitting there. I can always find her in a group because she has pure white hair. All I do is look around. Oh, there she is. And by the way, you know, my wife Holly, I have to tell you, when I first met her, I was in a doctor's office getting contact lenses. She was sitting over there in the corner, and she was there to get some adjustments made. And I asked her if I could have a magazine, because she had all the magazines on her lap. And she gives me a magazine. And she was so beautiful. She had an Angora sweater, pleated skirt. I couldn't really see her very well because I was getting contact lenses. And I just thought, boy, wow, isn't she something? So I went in to see the doctor, and I said, who's that girl out there? And Mr. Schiffler says, oh, that's Holly Wilbur. She is so nice. I said, would you give me her phone number? And the doctor says, I can't do that. But her file's open. You can go over, and if you can find her phone number, you can get it. So the phone number is 941-8427. I memorized it. So that's how we met. And she came over to Hawaii and married me on my R&R, so great. She comes flying over there. She couldn't even recognize me when I got off the plane because I went from 180 down to 143 pounds. And she sees this skinny guy getting off the plane. That couldn't be him. Anyway, she had it all arranged. We got married. Everybody says it won't work. Well, back in those days, I was a Catholic. She's a Protestant. Her mother and dad didn't want us to get married. Can you believe that? So, 55 years later, with everybody saying it'll never work, oh, you and I are still married. Now, I tell you the story about the school because one of the guys that was with Indian 3-9 was a lieutenant friend of mine. There was only 2 of us that walked off this hill, and he introduced me to Tom Jones, Major General Tom Jones, who was younger than us. But he started a camp up in Boswell called Outdoor Odyssey. And he said, Dan, you got to go meet Tom Jones. So I did. This was 1998. Tom Jones had a facility up there for at-risk children. He's in 28 school districts in western Pennsylvania. And what General Jones does, as a guidance counselor at a school, will identify a child ages 9 to 13 that's at risk. Now, at risk to us means he's at risk academically. He might have a bad home, but Tom Jones believes that if a kid can achieve academically, he can make it. Even if he has a bad home, he can make it. So Tom, in 28 school districts, he has at-risk kids that come up, but prior to that, he goes into the school districts and finds juniors that want to be seniors, that are going to be seniors, sophomores are going to be juniors, and has them come up, volunteer to become mentors for the at-risk kids that will come later. So they go through Leadership Academy. Leadership Academy has nothing to do with the Marine Corps, although the values and the character traits that we have in the Marine Corps, we begin to teach to these sophomores and juniors. And they're there for a week. My granddaughter went through that and it really changed her life. Then the at-risk kids come up, and they bond. There's 2 at-risk kids for each mentor. They bond, and when they go back to their school district, then that mentor is responsible for helping them around 3 academic goals. And he's been doing it now for 28 years. Along with that, the Semper Fi Fund needs a stable place to take care of wounded and injured and ill Marines and corpsmen initially. And so they start coming up to the camp, and because at this time in my life, I had sold my company, I didn't need to work for money anymore. I lived close enough that I could get to Outdoor Odyssey easily. Went up and met Tom Jones, knew him, and so I became a team leader, and because I was the oldest guy, I became the senior team leader, and I was able to bring in other guys like me, older, that weren't dependent on jobs as much anymore, and we then became team leaders for 4 guys that were coming anywhere from the United States. We flew them in, paid for everything. By the way, Tom, there's no charge to the school districts either, and Greensburg is really getting involved in the program too, and I'm really happy about that, by the way, David. And so here we are that we can bring these Marines in. All the guys that are with team leaders, with these small teams, are old guys like me, but we could build trusting relationships with these kids because we had already walked in their shoes. So when they came in, we knew all the lingo. We knew all the talk. We knew everything that they were going to go through because we'd done it before. We just didn't know what it was called. So a lot of us had people, we didn't know what it was. We just went out and did what we had to do. But now it had a name and so forth, and most of the kids, particularly in the latter part of the 14 years that I've been working with them up there, they had, in the beginning, gunshot wounds, burns, everything that you could imagine, amputations, lots of amputations. But as all these wars added up to 20 years, it became mostly post-traumatic stress and head injuries, traumatic brain injuries. So I tell people this, that Dan Pulse happened to be at the right place. Had I not been this age, I probably couldn't have done it because I'd have had to keep working. At the right time, right in the middle of this 20 years of war, with the right financial condition that I didn't need to work for money. And I lived close, and so I did about 67 of these one-week programs in a row. Haven't missed any since 2008. And we've got guys all over the country that are coming. And now, because we were so successful with the Marines, we signed an agreement with the nation's vet center programs, and we're getting Army, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And so it's really a premier program. It's evolved over time, and it all really got started with these guys here that all decided to keep giving and build a school. That school that you see the picture houses 1,000 Vietnamese 9 to 13-year-olds. And at the end of the day, all the guys that are names that are up there contributed to the building of that school. They said the future's in the children, not us. We've dropped the ball in so many ways, our generation. The future's always in the children. And that's why we did what we did in building the school, and that's what helped me. The first 2 columns of all the people you see there all gave their lives in Vietnam. So people like me want to play it forward, want to continue to help those, and that's really what my motivation was, to play it forward. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, at the right stop, to be able to do this. I reached out and got Abe. Abe's been a mock interviewer for I don't know how many years it is, and a lot of other people that I knew, I had to come up. So Abe has been someone that's been part of the program too. I don't know what else to tell you, but the main thing is that every one of those names up there have a different color. Me, I had freckles and red hair. One blue eye and one green eye. That's kind of crazy. We had black guys, Asian guys, Hispanic guys. There's one color in the Marine Corps, and that's Marine Corps green. Marine Corps green. We never let anybody down or anything like that. So when I look at that, I see diversity, I see what the country ought to be doing, I see service, and I see sacrifice. And if there's anything that's missing right now, after World War II, 70% of the Congress had served in World War II. So if you were a Republican and a Democrat or whatever you were, you had a bond with the guy that served. We don't have that now. We have maybe 5% that are actually serving that wear the uniform. So somehow the country's got to get some kind of national service so that people can serve and have that. So it's service and sacrifice. That's all you see when you look at all those names, is service and sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Fortunately, and it's just coincidentally, Dr. Bissell, our school superintendent, we really are invested in. We've been sending our students to Outdoor Odyssey, and today was a day where we took a team, the superintendent and a group of administrators went up to Outdoor Odyssey, and we're walking the grounds, and it's an amazing place. And we're walking with General Jones, and I mentioned to him that we were inducting Mr. Pulse this evening. He said, well, I can't think of anybody more deserving. And he said, you know, hey, we've been up here for all these years, and he is a loyal and dedicated guy to the program and really does an amazing thing. So we thank you for that. So just real quickly before we transition, we're going to shift gears a little bit to our Great Teacher Award, but just a little bit about, I think Zach had talked about the 67 grants that were given. Those are 67 classrooms over the last 5 to 7 years that have been impacted by the work, by those fundraisers, by the work of the foundation to make sure that our students are getting not just the resources that they need, but as we went through COVID, some virtual things, some materials that we could send home to them. So I think there's a lot of, again, as we talk about finding that, seeing the need and being the solution, that the foundation is doing that year after year, grant after grant. We have 2 grant cycles. And finally, our last, and again, everybody here is a sponsor, but we have a group of sponsors as well. Doug Farrell, who's with us every year. And Doug, we appreciate you continue to support the foundation. Jimmy Abraham, Tom's brother, continually supports Greensburg Salem through coaching. He's a great friend of ours. Ken Kovalchuk, Financial Solutions. And John and Suzanne Wright. Suzanne's on the board. They're very supportive of what we do. They had 3 girls who graduated from Greensburg Salem and all went off to Notre Dame and have graduated from there and are outstanding people and engineers. Excella Health is a great sponsor. Keppel-Graff Funeral Home, when Terry's here, sponsors Eric D., an attorney from Avolia Law Group, and Todd Tureen with Tureen and DeMatt Attorneys. McDowell Associates, Carl Eisman is always very supportive. Bill McCabe, event supporters, the other donors are here tonight. Paul and Linda Murphy, and good people from here at Toronto's Lounge, because they really give us a great deal and make this very doable for all of us. Some others, Tom mentioned Major General Claire Gill, who's here, retired. Former Superintendent Eileen Amato's in presence, along with our current Superintendent, Ken Bissell, our two commissioners. We appreciate Commissioner Curtis, Commissioner Doug Chu for being here. Not here this evening, so Anita Leonard, who really takes care of all the reservations, says, hey, I got this guy who works for Veterans Affairs, Dane Franklin, on the list. Do you know him? Said, Dane Franklin. Well, Dane's not here today. Unfortunately, he's sick. He just sent me a message before the banquet. I said, do I know Dane Franklin? So in 8th grade, I came from South Greensburg. Dane came from Lubbock, and actually my family is originally from Gayville, so we'd drive by Dane's house getting down to where my grandparents lived. And Dane and I met at the football games in 8th grade, and we've been best friends since 8th grade. So I wanted to recognize Dane, even though he's not here this evening. But again, so much support from not just our people in our foundation, but everyone throughout our community that continues to keep the gold in Greensburg Salem shining brightly. We do have an 80th birthday today, so we have to have a quick shout out to Mrs. Gloria Rossi. Happy birthday to you. And our friends Mary Jane, Huntley Blatney Baker is here as well, and Diane Underzak Bullabosh as well, here with the birthday girl. So congratulations to you. So Tom didn't sit down because he knew what was next. So Tom came to us as a foundation, and Tom always has great ideas. And he really said, hey, we have a ton of great teachers. I think we need to recognize some teachers. And Tom, I'm going to let him tell the story, but his wife, is a former, is a teacher as well, and just really wanted to, find a way to honor the people who are really making that difference in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. So Tom.
Be thankful Dan didn't tell you the bunny story from kindergarten. He always tells people how Miss Cadzo, our teacher, allowed him to take the bunny home, and he says, "I wanted it." It's a story. You don't need to hear it. I'm glad he didn't say it. He always says it. There was a time last October, I remember the night very well. I awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I recall the news report that I had seen that night. And you've seen the pictures, you've seen the news. Parents yelling at teachers, teachers yelling at school board members, parents yelling at school board members, everything going crazy. This disturbed me a lot. I was married to a teacher, actually 2 teachers. One didn't work out, the second one. It troubled me because growing up, I've always thought that we had the best in teachers, and we had the best community to grow up in. Recreation was the best. I've been all around the world, and truly, this was the best place to grow up. So it disturbed me that what I saw, and what I saw were teachers being used as political footballs. And I like politics as much as anybody, but it doesn't belong in the classroom. And it doesn't belong harassing teachers. And it doesn't belong substituting what teachers do, because they do good. So I was not able to get back to sleep. I thought about that for the next couple of hours, and I outlined a program that I wanted to do. My wife had passed by maybe 4 or 5 years prior to that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to make a great teacher award. And I swear I didn't even have to proofread my thoughts, because I just laid it out. I said, I'm going to give an award and a monetary award, a plaque and a monetary award, to a great teacher every year, and I'm going to fund it myself. So I came to GSEF, and I said, this is my proposal, I want to do it. And they said, well, this is great. I was going to give $1,000. And they said, why don't you make it for 3 teachers? I said, well, I can't do $3,000. And they said, no, you could give 300 to 3 different people. I said, no, the minimum I want to do is 500, and we'll do a teacher from each level. That was their idea. Elementary, secondary, and senior high. I didn't want any politics involved in it. No offense to any politicians in the crowd. You know what I'm talking about. I wanted it to be, the teacher was to be chosen by the kids. And the kids have class officers, they have student unions, and in elementary, they might have guidance counselors or other people who can help them. I wanted the kids to write up why they think somebody is a great teacher. And I left it to GSEF to write up the criteria. And while I was thinking about this program, I thought about one time when my wife, Ina, she was at school and I was still home. I was a home builder, so I didn't have to go any particular time. I was at home, she called and said, hey, I forgot my lesson plan. Would you believe they had a lesson plan for kindergarten? I can't believe it. But anyhow, she told me where it was, and I went and got it and took her to her. And when I got there, school hadn't started yet. The door to her homeroom was open. I knew where it was because I helped her load some stuff in there before school began in September. She was kneeling down and hugging a kid. So I waited until she was done. I said, whoa, what are you doing? In today's climate, you're going to get in trouble. You can't be touching kids. You can't be hugging kids. You can't do that. She said, I don't care, because a a lot of these kids don't get a hug at home, and they really want one and they need one, so I'm going to give them a hug. And you know what? She was an inspirational teacher. She hugged her kids. She didn't care what anybody said. And she motivated them and inspired them to learn. And that's what I wanted this award to be. So we wrote up the criteria, and it's $500 to each teacher, plus a plaque. And I have committed to, I wish I had $50,000 or $100,000 to say I could do an endowment, and it goes on forever, but I don't. But I've got enough to say that it's going to go on as long as I live, and maybe a little bit. My lawyer, is he still here? My lawyer is going to amend my will. Todd, you still here? You leave. Well, he's going to do it. He already talked to him. Oh, you're back there. So it's going to go a little bit beyond. But if anybody wants to contribute to that, contribute to GSEF, it's tax deductible, and this reward will go on for many years. But I got it covered for at least 20 years. By that time, I'm gone. But anyhow, I'll turn it back over to you, Dave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. And when you find that $100,000, I think we can award the favorite high school principal. How about that? That's a good idea. So, the good news is we came up with the criteria, and I think the whole committee really agreed on everything we talked about. And let's see here. We don't have the criteria. So we do have 3 winners. So we sent it out to the student council from the middle school, student council from the high school, and then also got it out to the 3 different buildings in the elementary schools. And we got the nominations, and we looked at numbers, and we looked at some of the comments on there, and little kids say some of the most beautiful things. So we're going to start with our elementary honoree. If she would just come up as we're talking about it, Mrs. Holly Burnsville. Holly teaches at Nicely Elementary. She worked at GS for 18 years. And one of the criteria was you had to be working at Greensburg Salem for a minimum of 10 years. She taught middle school English, and then elementary teacher in all subjects. The day that we walked in to present her with an award, they were working in reading, and her kids gave her a round of applause and standing ovation for her when they found out that she was getting recognized. She's an extensive lifetime learner, has various degrees in professional development. She works with our Summer Success Program that's really closing the gap due to COVID, so we're bringing the students back in. We have a Young Writers Camp that is really supported by GSEF, the foundation, and that's something that we've been able to do through GSEF, and many other after-school programs. I quote Lauren Galvin, and I think Lauren's here. Lauren, want to put your hand up? Lauren's here. Lauren says, or said, Mrs. Burnsville sparked my interest in language arts. And for that being a former English teacher, I can't imagine anything else to be sparked about, so that's great. A teacher who lights fires in students, so Lauren, thank you for your great words. She values relationships with students, as Tom had mentioned, to be able to better serve them and to meet their specific goals and needs. She's married to her husband David and has 3 daughters. She's grateful to her students' families for entrusting their children to her. It's with great pleasure that you get the first ever Ida Abraham Great Teacher Award to Mrs. Holly Burnsville. Moving to the middle school is a familiar face for many of us. Right now, she's our chairperson of GSEF, but that really doesn't have anything to do because the kids, it's not like the foundation's voting for it, so it's not like we could skew the vote. But we probably would if we could. She's taught at Greensburg Salem for 29 years, all of those in 8th grade language arts. She's a St. Vincent grad who worked first for the Trib as a reporter, and then several other professions before returning back to GS. She sponsors SCA. She's a coordinator of Read to Succeed. She's a coordinator of our Young Writers Program and anything, whatever's needed to support learning. She sees a need. She became the solution in 2009 to donate a kidney to her father, George. She became a member of National Kidney Advocacy Foundation. Barbara and her husband have 2 adult children who I saw here this evening, both Greensburg Salem graduates, Alyssa and Dominic. all four, Barbara and her husband, who played some high school football with me, and her two children are all GS grads. Mrs. G, I quote Kara Doyle. Is Kara here? Okay, I'm going to quote Kara. Mrs. G has cares a lot about her students and helps a lot with our work. She's a very kind person and teaches people to be kind as well. Wow, kindness, isn't that something? When I look at our world, I think, wow, if we could, kindness can solve so many problems that we don't necessarily need intelligence to solve. I think kindness can take care of that. I've never seen a teacher that explains stuff so well, and also she makes work fun and walks through it with us. It gives me great pleasure to honor one of our own, Barb Garfola, for her commitment to our community, educating one student at a time. Our first year's final Great Teacher Award recipient is from the high school, building that I know very well. A long history with Greensburg Salem. Her family, prior to her coming back to Greensburg Salem, worked in the community and worked for the school. Cheryl Harper has been a teacher at the high school for 34 years. Mrs. Harper, if you'll come up. She started her career teaching consumer math, but we now know that anything that she teaches, students will take. So it started with physics and then AP physics, and then she came to me one day and she said, I'm doing this independent study with astrophysics. I have 3 kids who are interested in astrophysics. And then next year, I had 10 kids that want astrophysics. I thought, who the heck wants to learn astrophysics? And now it's a class that we offer every year. And then she started honors modern physics, and kids are lined up to take that. And then she's teaching physics 2, and kids are lined up to teach that. And she started a young Kennemetal Young Engineers Apprentice Partnership Program with Kennemetal, and kids are lined up to do that. So, and the kids are here tonight because they're Harperites. We call them Harperites. Let me tell you a little more about it. For 20 years, she worked with Contemporary Physics Education Project. She has extensive professional development, including training through CMU and the Carly Institute of Theoretical, I had to practice this phrase, by the way, Theoretical Physics at the University of California, Santa Barbara. In her free time, she enjoys her new joy of being, she's a beekeeper. And she and her husband, Rick, who's on the school board at, it used to be Blairsville, whatever they call it now, something Valley, River Valley. So I'm sure they share some great stories on education. They have 2 children, Dr. Jessica Harper and her son Tommy, and she's delighted about the award because it comes as a recognition from her students. Lily Costlow, who's up here leading the pledge this evening, Harperite, said in her nomination that, quote, her advice is always the best. I sort of thought it was mine, Lily. Whether that be about school or students' personal lives. Finally, Lily said, she's the most caring and knowledgeable person I have ever met. Tom, I can't think of anything that would make you more proud than hear a line like that. Lily, I agree. Lily will be enrolling at the University of South Carolina. Nicole Elias said, she's gone out of her way countless times to help me. She was the one who helped me survive high school. She's going to Carnegie Mellon. Emily Campbell, who's in attendance this evening, says she responds to Teams chats. So when you get into this technology world, like we used to be like, well, I'm going to call the school tomorrow and talk to your teacher. Now parents can talk to us all day, all night on this Teams chat thing. It's like text messaging your teacher via the computer. And Mrs. Harper responds 24/7. So when someone reaches out to her about a question with physics, they're quickly getting a response. She's also able to answer virtually any question posed. And I will tell you that is one brilliant woman. I know it. I've worked with her for a long time. I always feel positivity in Mrs. Harper's room. And that's from another student. Billy McChesney. Billy McChesney said that. And Billy's going off to wrestle at Columbia University. He got 299,000 reasons why he's going to Columbia. So that's a very incredible education he's going to get for practically no cost. So please join me in congratulating our high school great teacher honoree. You always find ways to help students become better at what they do. And that's the thing, there's times when students aren't sure what they want to be, and she seems to find a way to help them get to be where they want to be. So thank you to each of those 3. Thomas, also, thank you to you.
Footnote. What happens when you don't have a speech written out? It's not a speech. I didn't mention that Ina was a teacher at Hemphill. So when I came up with this thought, everybody said, well, you going to do this at Hemphill or Greensburg? And then, hey, you ever hear the guy who got the gold makes the rules? I went to Greensburg. The award comes to Greensburg. I wish, a couple of Hemphill teachers over here, good friends of mine, I wish Hemphill would take up that program, and I'd love to see them do it, and wouldn't be jealous, because everybody knew her at Hemphill. That's what
All right, that wraps up our program. Thank you for being here. Again, each person, if I didn't call your name, you are as valuable as everybody else in this room. I appreciate you being here, and we want to continue to support our schools and our community. So thank you very much for being here tonight.